Hey everybody, happy hump day. I'm sorry we're so late tonight. I posted that we'd be an hour late, and looking at the clock, I'm an hour and 35 minutes late tonight, so I assume that most of you that watch us on Wednesdays will probably pick this up tomorrow. I did want to start tonight with dead trees. First of all, my question is, if all the trees are gone, why is there so much pollen, and why are my eyes burning and I'm sneezing? I mean, I would have thought the only bonus in the entire post-Michael world is that we would catch a little bit of a break from allergies, but oh my God, I got to tell you, everybody in my household has been sniffling and sneezing for the last, I don't know, 10 days or so. But I'm going to quit complaining, and I do want to talk about dead trees and how they affect you. I posted on this earlier today, and it may have been yesterday, to be fair. But I had a question from somebody that said, "Hey, you know, my neighbor's got a dead tree that's it apparently it was." A victim of Hurricane Michael, and now it is leaning, as every tree is in all of Bay County, and my neighbor's tree is now leaning over my house. And I've talked to my neighbor, and they said, well, too bad, we're not going to do anything about it. We just can't afford to have it taken down. And this person was pretty worried. And so they asked me what they could do, and could they get something done about this? Would insurance companies respond? Insurance companies respond to things that happen, not to things that might happen. So the trigger is an occurrence, which is an accident, a fall, some sort of damage. So potential damage is something that an insurance company is not going to respond to. So the practical advice I had for this particular person was, look, if you see something that is a potential hazard that you think is really going to be a danger to your house or your property, your family, and we've experienced this in the past, so we've got some pretty good history. Is document what you're saying. You call code enforcement. Code enforcement may have some advice for you. It's a little bit unlikely that they're going to do anything unless there's really something imminent. But a leaning tree is not something that code enforcement is really going to get involved in normally. And if you feel like this is a problem, the tree is dead and it's going to come down or it's going to drop limbs on your house, then your first option, of course, I think, is to you need to send a certified letter to your neighbor. I know that sounds kind of crazy when they live right next door to you, but what you need to do is you need to document the issue. You need to document that you've warned these people that, well, we have a potential problem. We think there is going to be a tree falling on our house at some point, and we're asking you right now to do something about it. And if you're not willing to do something about it, well, we can't do much about it for you. The ideal situation is that you get along with your neighbor. Maybe you come to some agreement with them that you're going to help them do something about this tree. But if there's a tree on their property, just because it's threatening yours or you perceive it to be threatening your property, you can't go on their property and just start cutting trees. That's just not the way things are done. Your property rights end at the property line. So you can trim any limbs or any part of the tree that is over the property line on your side of the world, but beyond that, you can't do anything unless they give you permission. But what you can do is you can document things. As I said, you should talk to code enforcement, not necessarily because they're going to do a lot about it, but because that's documentation that you've expressed concern and that you think this is a problem. A certified letter is the same thing, and if 18 months from now, a limb drops on your house and puts a hole in your roof, then I think you've got a pretty good case against them that they've been negligent and that they didn't address a problem that you brought to their attention. And frankly, the unfortunate part is at that point, is you're probably going to have to sue your neighbor. You're probably going to have to take this to court. That's the bad news, and nobody wants to have to be in a position of suing their neighbor. But the good point is, at that point, their homeowner's insurance, assuming it's the homeowner that lives there, is their liability insurance will probably cover it at that point because they've been negligent by not taking care of what's a known hazard. There has been some suggestion on social media and particularly on Facebook that, well, we'll call your own insurance company and ask them if they'll take care of it. Again, insurance companies don't take care of potential problems. Generally, they take care of actual losses, actual damage. So if you call an insurance company and say, hey, there's a really big limb, a big tree that's leaning over my house, it might fall, what do you think their reaction is going to be? Their most likely reaction, unfortunately, is going to be to say, well, what we're probably going to do is we're probably going to cancel your insurance policy. because we don't want to be here when the tree falls. It's a little bit like seeing fire down the road, and you say, hey, there's fire down the road. It's going to come get to my house. Do something about it. I want you to come, put it out. Insurance companies are not geared for that. What they're geared for is actual damage. If they see what they think is potential damage, then they'd rather not be a part of that, to be quite honest. I mean, I don't want to be too sanguine about this, but insurance companies, if they know something or really have a strong feeling something is going to happen, they don't want to be a part of that. They want to have the law of large numbers. They want to have the law of averages. They want to say there's 1,000 people out there. Some of those people are going to have damage, some are not. We're going to insure them all and assume all the numbers are just going to work out in the end. So I don't know that I would call and alert my insurance company. What I would do is alert my neighbors. I would alert my code enforcement folks. And then I would make sure that you have a pretty good set of documentation so that if something does happen, which would be unfortunate, then you at least have a path to get paid back. So that's my advice about dead trees today. I would like to talk a little bit about storm prep. I've also talked about this and posted on it the last couple of days. I don't want to overdo the fact that it's hurricane season again. We all know June 1st happens every year. Every one of us that lives in Florida knows this drill, and I'm not gonna tell you get batteries, get water. Everybody knows this. You can get that kind of information anywhere. What I will say is there's a couple little tips I want to throw you from the insurance side of the house. And they're easy to do. You can spend zero money in about 15 minutes and make this work for you. What I would suggest is take some photos, and I want to take you through some very specific photos. Looking at your house, assuming it's back in order and you're not still trying to get your roof on and get your drywall put in, take pictures of anything that's of a specialized value. If you have a 2,000-year-old antique desk, take a picture of that. If you have a grand piano, take a picture of that. If you have really, really expensive china, take a photo of that. Things that are unusual, things that are special, take a picture of that, because there are things that adjusters don't ordinarily see. They could go through 100 homes and they're going to see couches, they're going to see dishes, they're going to see tables and chairs, they're going to see your clothes. But what they're not going to see is a 2,000-year-old antique desk. So take photos of that so you can document that really well. I would say if you can go further than that and document the provenance, document the value, document exactly what those items are, that's great. Beyond that, what I want you to take a picture of is I want you to pull out your insurance policy and take a picture of your dec pages, your declarations pages. That's the first 2, 3, 4 pages of your policy that have all the numbers on them, that have your limits of insurance, your premium, the name of your insurance company. I want you to take pictures of all of that. Just before you do that, before you take that set of pictures, I want you to call your insurance provider. Hopefully it's a local insurance agent. And what I want you to do is ask them, okay, I need an 800 number for my insurance company, and tell them why you want this information, because you don't want to get them concerned and think they need to be doing something for you that they're not. Say, look, if you're not here, let's say your phones are down, your internet is down, or let's say you as my agent, your building's blown away. I need to know how to report my claim if we have another storm. What I want you to do is ask them for that 800 number, write that 800 number at the top of your insurance policy just before you take those pictures. You're going to have those pictures on your phone, and if you evacuate, certainly you're going to have those pictures with you. I want you to take one more step. I want you to upload those photos to some sort of free cloud service. You can go to Dropbox, you can go to Google Drive. Apple has everything, Microsoft, everybody's got free cloud services now. But if you're not familiar with that and you're not in a free cloud service, now's a really good time to learn. I've talked to you many, many times about learning new skills. This is a really good excuse to learn how to use a cloud drive. So what I would suggest is take this information, doesn't take up much space, and load it onto a cloud drive. And that way, let's say you lose your phone, it gets wet, it gets damaged, you can pull that information up on your laptop, on an internet-connected computer somewhere else. Let's say you've evacuated to Dothan or Atlanta. You can pull up that information, you can find your 800 number, you can find your policy number, and you can report your claim before you even come back home and find out what's going on with your house. I want you to have all of the possible information that you really need at your disposal, but you're going to have to do that now. You need to do that as part of your planning. I want to talk a little bit also about some psychology. Back in January, February, I have to be honest with you, we saw what I called brain lock. We saw people coming into our office, both clients and people at the help desk, that you could just see their brains had ground to an absolute screeching halt. It looked like we've come through cycles, and it looked like we worked through that in March and April, and I'm starting to see what I call brain lock again. And what I would say to you is, I think for most of us, there's a pretty simple diagnosis of this problem. I don't pretend to be a mental health professional, and I'm not saying that I can solve everyone's problem, but I would like for you to consider this. If you just feel like you're locked down and you can't think and you can't move and you feel like you're in neutral and you don't know what to do, think of this. I want you to sort of picture dominoes lined up as if you're going to knock them down and they're just going to fall in a line. Everybody's seen it. You probably played that as a kid. What I see in people is you have all these dominoes lined up, and they sort of represent all of the things you need to do as part of your recovery process from Hurricane Michael. Very, very normal. The problem that you have is I see way too many people trying to look at all these dominoes and consider them all at once. That is way too much information. It's way too much to try to process. And I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to consider too many things, and your brain locks down, and it just stops. The gears just kind of grind to a stop. So what I would say to you is, if you'll look at this as a series of dominoes, things have to fall in a certain order. You have to get your roof back on before you pick the color of your carpet. You probably need to get your soffit redone before you get your insulation blown back in your attic. So I think it's very important that you consider the fact that things need to happen in a certain order. It's maybe not a super important order that everything has to be super regimented. However, I think some things have to happen before other things. So what I would suggest to you is, as a way to sort of unlock your brain and get those gears moving again, is look at the first domino. Look at the first two dominoes maybe in this entire line. Ignore all of these down here at the other end of the row. Ignore them all. You can't deal with those yet. Until these dominoes fall, these dominoes aren't going to be affected. Nothing's going to happen down here. So worrying about those is just taking up extra headspace, and it's just bothering you. So let's focus. Look at the things in front of you. Look at the things you know you can control that need to happen today, this week, the next 2 weeks. Worry about next week, next month, next year, down the road. Don't worry about what's going to happen to Tyndall Air Force Base 2 years from now. Don't worry about how you're going to get your yard fixed and how it's going to be pretty next spring. Worry about how you're going to get your roof done. Worry about how you're going to get your drywall redone and get your contents moved back in your house. Those kinds of things. I think it's very, very important that we focus on what we can control today, and let's leave for another day what we can worry about another day. If you don't, what will happen is your brain will just get overloaded and you're done. Your brain will shut down, you'll lock up, and the things that you really need to focus on today, you won't be able to focus on. So stop, breathe, think, breathe, and then act. And then worry about tomorrow, tomorrow. Worry about today, today. The final thing kind of that I want to close with tonight, and it'll be a little quicker than normal, is there's a lot of questions, particularly on social media, and I think just in general in discussion. How long is recovery going to take? And I think that question is generally asked by people who want to date. People want to say, it's going to be 6 months from now. It's going to be a year. It's going to be 5 years from now. It's as if recovery is some finite item that people can hang an end date on. And I want to say that it's not a fixed point. It's just not going to be there. Frankly, we've done a ton of recovery already. Some recovery is already finished. It's already in our history. I remember driving into my neighborhood 3 or 4 weeks after the storm through debris tunnels. I don't know if you remember debris tunnels, but I was driving through tunnels that were higher than my car on both sides of my vehicle, just trying to get into my neighborhood. We still didn't have internet in a lot of places. We still didn't have cell phones. So a lot of recovery has already happened. When will we come to full recovery? It depends on your definition. What is your definition of full recovery? Is it when your favorite restaurant is open? Is it when you get all of your landscaping completely done and your home is fine? Is it when your neighborhood is completely restored to normal? Is it when we get back to full employment? Is it when all of the restaurants in town are open? My point is, there is no point in time when recovery is finished. Recovery is going to be on a continuum, and I think we all need to be calm, and we need to be as patient as we possibly can, and we need to take comfort in the milestones that we make. We also need to realize at the end of the day, when we get there, it's not, you may not even recognize it when you get there. So I would encourage people to think about this as sort of a soft process. We're not going to have a hard date that all of a sudden everything is fine. Everything's going to be normal. When we come out of the other end of this, our community is going to look different. I'm very optimistic, and personally, I got to tell you, I think it's going to look better. If you look at the businesses that have reopened in this town already, the ones that have reopened in better condition than when they closed. You've got a lot of people that have had the opportunity to start anew, that have had the chance to hit the reset button. Businesses that have maybe been able to freshen up, fluff up. They've been able to do some things that ordinarily they might not have been able to do. You've even seen homeowners. I realize a lot of people are still in some tough circumstances, but some folks that are in pretty good shape have been able to do some things like, you know what, while we're here, I'm going to put in new flooring. While we're here, I'm going to repaint my house, and I'm going to throw a little bit of money in with my insurance proceeds, and I'm going to improve things. So their home a month from now, 3 months from now, is better than it was on October 9th of last year. So I think we're going to come out different. I think we're going to come out better. I think we need to focus on the positive. I realize I haven't had a lot of insurance content tonight other than the tree thing, but I thought it was really important that we focus for a little while on the positive and on how we move forward in general with recovery and not just with insurance. I promise you that we will come back with more insurance content on Sunday. For now, I want you to be encouraged. I want you to put one foot in front of the other, and I want you to remember, let's prep for this storm season. Let's be ready if it happens again, and let's keep one foot moving in front of the other. Thanks very much. I appreciate you guys watching us, and we'll see you Sunday.